Welcome back to The Explainer. If you're a focused learner trying to figure out the real why behind the stuff we do every single day, well, you're definitely in the right place. Today, we're bringing some enthusiastic energy into a deep dive on the hidden mechanics of repetitive human behaviors by unpacking a really fundamental psychological framework. It's called the habit loop.
So, why do we repeat behaviors automatically? I mean, think about your morning routine, or what happens the exact second you sit down at your desk to start work. You don't consciously decide to execute those actions step by step, right? You're not mapping out the exact sequence of making your coffee or checking your inbox. Yet, we do them anyway, day in and day out with near-perfect precision. So, how do we end up running on autopilot like this, and what is actually happening inside our heads when we do?
Section 1, the automatic brain. Let's transition right into this and start unpacking the fundamental mechanics behind our consistent human conduct.
Okay, let's dive into this. The habit loop is essentially a psychological engine, a cycle where behaviors become repetitive through three things: a triggering event, an action, and positive reinforcement. This invisible cycle is basically an evolutionary efficiency engine. See, our brains are incredibly energy-hungry organs, and to conserve cognitive load, they're constantly looking for ways to save effort. By converting conscious choices into automated background processes, the brain frees up precious mental bandwidth for, more complex problem solving. It's this elegant survival mechanism, ensuring that once a behavior is learned and rewarded, it becomes a permanent, low-energy fixture in our daily routine.
Section 2, the three-step framework. To really understand this psychological cycle, we need to systematically break it down into its core components. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact sequence. Every ingrained habit follows a strict blueprint. First, you've got the cue, which is the psychological trigger. Second is the routine, the actual physical or mental action you instinctively take. And third is the reward, the ultimate payoff. These aren't just arbitrary steps. This is literally the universal neurological blueprint dictating how we learn and repeat behaviors over time. If a habit exists, it is absolutely anchored by these three specific pillars.
Section 3, decoding the cue. Let's zoom in on that very first step of the framework, because this is the exact moment the cycle actually activates. To make this super relatable, let's look at a modern trigger we all know way too well: the smartphone ping. That tiny sound, or even just a sudden vibration in your pocket, is the ultimate triggering event. Actually, our brains are so intensely wired for this specific cue that a lot of us regularly experience what psychologists call phantom vibration syndrome. When you feel a distinct buzz against your leg, but your phone isn't even in your pocket. That's how deeply conditioned we are. The precise second your brain processes that auditory or physical signal, the starting gun is fired and your habit loop commences.
Section 4, action and payoff. So let's move the narrative forward. What happens immediately after that triggering signal? Well, the routine here is the deliberate physical act of opening the app right after the smartphone pings. Think about how deeply automatic this is for most of us. The ping happens, and almost instantly, without a single conscious thought passing through your prefrontal cortex, your hand reaches out, your thumb swipes up, and the screen unlocks. You're acting entirely on instinct. That seamless physical execution, happening totally beneath your conscious awareness, is the routine playing out in full effect. And then we hit the final piece of the sequence, the reward. You open the app and boom, you're greeted by a smiley face icon, a like on a photo, or a message from a friend. This acts as the ultimate payoff. It delivers a tiny but incredibly potent hit of dopamine directly to the brain's reward centers. It's giving your mind this massive surge of positive reinforcement. And without that neurochemical surge, the brain would have absolutely zero reason to remember the sequence for the future. Dopamine is essentially the glue holding the entire habit together. So how exactly does your brain process that sudden rush of reinforcement? Basically, it internally logs a very simple, compelling message. That felt good. Let's do it again. When you see that smiley face, your brain is actively experiencing warm satisfaction. It is literally updating its internal algorithm, ensuring that this exact sequence of events is prioritized and repeated the very next time you hear a ping. Section 5, the neurological pattern. Now, you might be asking yourself, why does this matter? Let's shift our focus from a simple app interaction to the broader implications for the brain.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the profound bridge it creates. On one side, we have external signals existing in the physical world around us, like a notification ping, a specific time of day, or maybe the smell of a coffee shop. On the other side is the internal response, the neurological positive reinforcement happening deep inside your head.
The habit loop is the direct mechanism that wires your internal brain chemistry to your external environment. And thanks to neuroplasticity, every single time this loop is completed, those neural pathways become thicker and more entrenched. It's exactly why product designers and marketers spend billions studying these loops. They are mapping out the direct pathways to our automatic behaviors.
So, the crucial point is that the mechanics of these ingrained habits accomplish three massive things. They link external signals to specific activities, they deliver that vital positive reinforcement, and ultimately, they drive consistent human conduct. This framework explains exactly why certain behaviors feel woven into our very fabric, because, biologically speaking, they literally are. They form the underlying architecture of our daily lives. Which leaves us with one final, super provocative question to reflect on. What unseen cues are driving your own daily routines? Now that you understand the mechanics of the habit loop, the cue, the routine, and the reward, you actually have the lens to critically examine your own environment. Are you independently in control of your behaviors, or are unseen loops subtly dictating your days? Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep learning.